Hi kids. Just gonna give you a couple of things to do today, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about what we can do to make it through today, and hopefully your substitute can help you with some of these things. Substitute, I think that the folder that these items should be in should be the Friday folder. If it's not, those folders that are on my desk full of papers, just look for it. It should be in the Friday folder, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't know what's been going on there because I haven't been there. All right, so we're going to continue with our Mummies and Pyramid book. You should have used yesterday to get all caught up, and so hopefully you are caught up in this book. We have one more chapter, which is chapter 9, which is what we're going to be reading today, and then you're going to have a paper. It's not very long. Looks like that. And when you get to this part right here, it asks you to get a tablet and to work with a partner and look for an Egyptian artifact on the tablet, and it wants you to use visual imagery and draw what that artifact is right here from ancient Egypt. And then on the back of this paper you can write some information about what the object is. I know some of you probably aren't all done with your Mummies and Pyramids things out of this folder and your other papers, maybe your coloring contest. So I know I only have 6 tablets, so you'll have to take turns. So have a group, that would be about 6 groups. So you have 6 groups, so that's 12 people. So those of you that have a lot of work that you may not have done, you need to let the other kids that are finished go first, and then you can go afterwards and use the tablets, but you need to get all your stuff done. So we're going to read chapter 9 out of here. We're going to do our paper that looks like this. You're going to find you an Egyptian artifact. You're going to draw it and color it, both people on both their papers. Write a couple facts about the artifact here, maybe where it was found, what it's used for, what it's called, if there's anything else interesting about it. And that's something that you can do on your paper. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to save these 2 things for tomorrow. I know you're working on coloring these. Don't cut them out because you'll lose them. Those are probably in my Thursday folder if you didn't pass these out yesterday, or today. They could have worked on these, but I don't know if you passed them out or not. So anyway, this little thing right here is what we're going to work on today. This little paper right here. So I've got this thing that says ancient Egypt, and then we have these words right here. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a flap book, and it looks like this when you get it done. And it's got 4 flaps. So you're just going to take, let me find my paper here. I have so many things on my desk at home. It's crazy. So you're going to just take a piece of paper. I'll just use this one here. And you're just going to fold it like this. And then take your scissors and cut 1, 2, 3 equal lines. And that will make flaps 1, 2, 3, oops, stuck, and 4, okay? And it makes a little flap book, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your 4 Egyptian words right here, and then you're going to put what matches it on the inside. So this is the Pharaoh, that's the word Pharaoh, and then here is the definition over here. And I did put what part of speech it was. Oops, sorry. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do with that. And this is going to go in your interactive social studies notebook. You already put this paper in there. This should either be on the page next to it when you get done. So you just put some glue on the back and glue it in your interactive social studies notebooks. These are things that remind us that we learned about Egypt in our social studies interactive notebooks. They do not go in our manila envelope folder thing. Okay, so we're gonna do our paper with our Mummies and Pyramids book. You can take turns doing that. Then you can work on getting this paper done so that it looks like this, and then gluing it into your interactive notebook. If you get those items done, then you need to continue working on your Egyptian mural, coloring that, and you need to finish getting these all colored because we're gonna make this tomorrow. So make sure you have that all colored and ready to go so that we can do that tomorrow. Then the other thing I need you to do is I need you to get a piece of lined paper, and on your lined paper, I want you to take your 4 Egyptian word nerd words this week and 10 other words. I don't care what word it is from your word nerd notebook. You can choose what, sorry, my dog was doing something back there. You can choose whatever you want to from your word nerd. So use your 4 Egyptian words, 1 in each sentence, and then choose 10 more to use in a sentence. So when you get done, that will be 10 words of your choice, 4 Egyptian words, so that's 14 sentences. So you'll number your line paper 1 to 14, skipping lines, and then I want you to make sure you use capital letters at the beginning, punctuation marks at the end, and then highlight your word nerd words so that I know what word you used in each sentence, okay? So that's what we're gonna do for our work for today. And substitute teacher, if they get all their work done again and it's a pretty day, and when they get done with music and music or art, whichever they have today, feel free to take them outside for an extra recess in the afternoon. They still need to do their deer time. When they get back from art and music, they need to do at least 30 minutes of that silent reading time to make sure that they're working on their AR goal. Ooh, and that reminds me, when you get this book finished, when you're done reading it, it is an AR test. And I need you to take that because that's part of your grade, not the AR part of it, but it will help your AR points, but it also is to see how much of this that you know. So feel free to go back and look in your Egyptian folder and things before you take your test if you would like. Then I'm gonna tell you your fact or crud, which was kind of funny yesterday. I needed something funny. Okay, a healthy human farts between 15 and 30 times per day. So did you think that was fact or crud? How many of you thought it was fact? Raise your hand. How many of you thought it was crud? Raise your hand. Well, the answer is crud. The average person farts between 5 and 15 times per day. But who's counting? Okay, so that's pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so I'll give you another one at the end after I read to you. So if you're in Mrs. Mason's class, you can pause now. You don't have to listen to this unless you want to. So I'll let the substitute pause that real quick. Okay, now I'm ready to read. It's probably about 2:55. You should have your snacks. You should be in your seat. You should be ready to listen to the next chapter in our Nightmares book. This one is called The Intruder. Now, he has told his friends about his stepmom and that he thinks she's a witch. They all told about what their dreams were, except Paige. She hasn't said anything. But Rocco's always dreamed about flunking a test, and the principal is there. Alfie's always dreaming about flunking his physical, which is something you do in PE class. And it seems like the principal's there too. And they're thinking that's kind of weird and kind of odd. And then Jack went home with Charlotte and they were worried that she's going to eat him. And so they went to the herbitarian. Oh, I can't say that tonight. I'm too tired. But anyway, they went to the ice cream shop to see if they were there. And they're in her shop, the herbarium. Is that how you say that? I don't know. But anyway, and so they're just sitting in there eating ice cream, and so the kids are not too impressed and don't think that she's doing anything wrong. And so they said, hey, let's just go next door and get us an ice cream. And Charlie's mad about that. So the other kids leave to go get an ice cream, and he's just like, do whatever you want. Okay, so this is called The Intruder. Charlie marched toward the mansion with his jaw clamped tight, his head down and his arms crossed. He felt like an idiot. He dragged his friends all the way across town to watch his little brother pig out on some ice cream. She'd planned it all along, he thought. The step monster must have known he'd tell his friends about her. They'd almost believed him. Now he was back where he started, alone. But Charlie had one last chance. If he could get into Charlotte's lair, he might find something that would prove she was dangerous. When he reached the purple house, he charged upstairs towards the tower, racing past the portrait of Silas DeChant. Right before he got to the second floor, Charlie came to a stop. Even when the rest of his family was home, the second floor hallway gave him the creeps. The pictures on the walls always seemed to be watching him. The people in the frames were all Charlotte's ancestors. Not only did many of them share that same curly hair, but most of the portraits the Purple House could have seen somewhere in the background, as if it were a proud part of their clan. Charlie took a cautious step towards the door that led to the tower stairs. The house was very quiet. His dad was still at work. Charlotte and Jack were in town. Charlie hadn't set foot in his stepmonster's lair in over a year. He didn't really want to now, but evidence of Charlotte's true identity might be hidden inside. And with his family gone, he had a rare chance to do some snooping around. Charlie reached out and twisted the knob. The door in front of him opened with a creak. He heard chair legs scrape against the floorboards, followed by a loud crash. He counted 6 heavy footsteps, and then nothing. Charlie almost dashed downstairs to call 911. His knees felt weak. He was breathing too fast. But Cypress Creek wasn't home to burglars or bad guys, he reminded himself. Most people never even lock their doors. So Charlie gripped the doorknob and tried to stay standing. There had to be another explanation. "Hello?" he called out. "Dad?" But there was no response. Charlie held his breath and listened for signs of movement. Minutes ticked by and nothing happened. He began to wonder if it might have been Aggie, the cat. It wouldn't have been the first time the beast had raised a racket while chasing down some mice in the mansion's walls. He put a foot on the first stair, then he forced his legs to lift him up to the second. He tried not to think about what might be waiting up at the top. With Jack's life at stake, he could not run away. When he reached the last stair, Charlie craned his neck and peeked into the room. Lit by a silvery afternoon light, the tower was empty. He searched for Aggie, but the cat wasn't there. Whatever had made the commotion was gone, though it hadn't left the stairs. But there had been an intruder. That much was certain. One of Charlotte's desk drawers had been broken into, and the floor was strewn with drawings. Charlie recognized a handful of the illustrations Jack had shown him at breakfast. He spotted a familiar picture of 2 girls and a few drawings of monsters that he'd probably never forget. Some of the illustrations were so lifelike, it was hard to believe the creatures hadn't posed for their own portraits. Charlie bent down for a closer look. He was surprised to discover that many of the drawings showed familiar subjects. There were several pictures of the Purple Mansion and drawings of Silas DeChant that looked just like the painting on the staircase landing. And no. Charlie stepped forward and snatched an illustration off the floor. It was a drawing of his house. Except in the picture, it wasn't purple, it was black. But it wasn't the art that interested him, it was the caption. Charlotte had named this picture the Netherworld Mansion. Charlie rubbed his eyes to make sure he had read it right. The word Netherworld remained right there on the page. He folded the paper and shoved it into his pocket. It was proof. The Netherworld was real. And Charlotte DeChant knew all about it. Grinning in triumph, Charlie turned his attention to the top of Charlotte's desk. The binder that had once held her drawings was spread open. Beside it sat a screwdriver that had been used to break the lock on the drawer in which the binder was kept. The desk chair was lying on its side. Whoever had ransacked the office must have been sitting in it when Charlie had surprised him. Charlie looked around the room. There was only one door, and the windows were shut. How had an intruder managed to leave without Charlie seeing him? Spooked once more, Charlie picked up the overturned chair and took a seat. He began to thumb through the pages still left in the binder, not sure what he wanted to find. Then his eyes landed on an image that stopped him, cold. A picture of a small blonde girl dressed in an ordinary t-shirt and jeans. She was glaring up at a horrible, leering clown. The girl's teeth were gritted and her fists clenched. She looked ready to take every monster on every monster in the world. Charlie knew that look well, and he knew it had belonged to his mother. On the back of the drawing was a very strange poem. When creatures are shrieking and howling like jackals, monsters with sharp claws and ghouls wearing shackles, demons of darkness that are by your fears made, my lessons will teach you to not be afraid. The first thing to do is to know that you're dreaming when nightmares come sneaking and snarling and creeping. Those creatures are just your worst fears in disguise. What truly scares you might be a surprise. The front door all the way downstairs creaked open and slammed shut. Charlie froze, paralyzed with fear. "Hey!" he heard Jack shout from the foyer. "Charlie, are you here?" Charlie leapt into action, gathering up the remaining pages from his stepmonster's binder. If she found him, she'd think he was responsible for the broken desk lock and all the mess. He shoved the illustrations back into the binder and dropped the book into the desk drawer. He started to tiptoe toward the door, but before he could reach it, he heard Jack bounding up the stairs to the second floor. "Hey, Charlie, we brought you some ice cream. It's your favorite, cookie dough." "Hey, Charlie, Paige said you were home. Where are you?" Doors were being thrown open in the hallway below. Charlie slipped back into Charlotte's big wooden desk and ducked into the space underneath it. He just pulled the chair into position when the tower door flew open. He held his his breath while his brother looked around the room. "He's not up here either," his brother Jack shouted down to Charlotte. It was dark, warm, and surprisingly cozy beneath the stepmonster's desk. Even with his legs curled up beneath him and his head resting against the wood, Charlie's eyelids began to grow very heavy. It was no time for a nap, but he could not resist. And suddenly he was inside the witch's dungeon. The cauldron in the center of the room was bubbling and rats raced around the rubbish pile and the cats snacked on the slowest. The witch was seated in a chair by the fire. She appeared to be fixing her hair, using the side of a shiny meat cleaver as a mirror. When she looked up, she didn't seem happy to see him. "Oh, it's you," she said, returning to her primping. "It's not a good time, dear. Agatha and I are about to leave. We have a big night planned." "What are you going to do?" Charlie demanded. "Oh, my," the witch chided him. "What terrible manners you have. The answer is none of your business." "We're going to eat your brother," Agatha howled. "Really?" The witch shot the cat a dirty look. "Was that necessary?" "You're not going to eat anybody tonight," Charlie declared, wishing he felt as brave as he sounded. "Oh, is that right?" the witch asked. "And just who do you suppose is going to stop us?" "Me," Charlie said. He rushed to the cauldron, which was as big as a bathtub and filled to the brim with a foul-smelling brew. He hit the side of the pot with all his weight, and to his surprise, it fell over, letting loose a wave of bubbling brown liquid that washed over the witch. "You nasty little brat," the witch screeched, plucking what looked like chicken's claws and frog guts off her dress. "Did you think I was going to dissolve? Now you've destroyed my dress and ruined my broth." "This isn't a movie," Agatha said with a roll of her eyes. "Witches don't melt." "Get him," the witch yelled. "We'll tie him up and make him watch us eat." The cat pounced, knocking Charlie into the back and holding him there as the witch got the rope. Soon Charlie was bound to the dungeon's cot, and the witch and her cat were gone. "No!" he screamed. "Wake up!" he told himself. "Wake up, wake up, wake up!" Then, to his amazement, he was wide awake and under Charlotte's desk. Charlie slid out and realized that night had fallen. Night had fallen, but the tower was far from dark. Outside, the moon was shining and light flooded the room. Charlie scrambled down from the tower. When he got to the second-floor hallway, he could hear his father talking on the phone. He crept down to the landing between the first and second floors to listen to what he was saying. Around 4 p.m., by the ice cream parlor, he told his friends he was walking home. "My wife is out looking for him right now." He was wearing jeans and a hoodie, blue sneakers with green stripes. "No, officer, he's been a bit difficult lately, but he's never done anything like this before." It was then that Charlie heard a familiar creak. He spun around just in time to catch sight of the door to the tower stairs swinging shut. He could hear footsteps climbing to the top, and he wasted no time charging up behind them. When he reached the tower, he came to a halt at the door. The octagonal room no longer had 8 solid walls. One side had vanished. And where there had once been plaster and wood, Charlie now saw the forest from his own nightmares. He rushed toward the opening before it could close. There in the distance was the witch with a little boy thrown over her shoulder. Well, I wonder who the witch has. Don't know. Sounds like the police are out looking for Charlie because his family doesn't know where he is. So that's kind of bad. Okay, well, be good today. And I will hope you get all your things done. And substitute teacher, if they get done with all their work and they need something to do, they can always read their AR books. They need to be working towards their goal. I hope you get everything done. Today is Thursday, so you should be going to computers. Don't forget to take your BB-8 folder with you. And then make sure you go to music and art at 12:30. And that is all for today. And I will see you on Tuesday. We're getting closer. And I do feel actually a tiny dot better today, so I'm happy about that. So have a good day, and I will see y'all tomorrow in my video for the last one. And remember, kindness. Oh, I didn't do my factor crud. I know you're gonna want that. Oh, almost forgot. Okay, so your factor crud. This one says, the camera is the single most used feature on a smartphone. The camera is the single most used feature on a smartphone. So you have to decide if you think that the camera on your phone is what they use the most, people. Okay? All right. So I love you. See you later. And remember, kindness is a language everyone can hear. Bye.